Check out my swag, yo. I walk like a ball player. No matter where you go, you are who you are, player. They've lost the last two by a combined 45. That's the Hawks. That's Trae Young arriving.
Is he limping?
I mean, I think he's walking
Look like he's looking real spry.
That might be the player stroll. That might be the player stroll he's walking in with. Trae Young with the bruised ankle. We'll get the update from Stephanie Reddy momentarily. Can they tie the series up at home? And then you see Giannis Antetokounmpo. The Bucks plan to take a commanding 3-1 lead, 9 games of 30 points and 10 rebounds this postseason, the most since Shaq did it back in 2000. Oh yeah, Shaq won a chip that year too. Can Giannis and company do the same? They need 2 more victories to make it into the NBA Finals. 8:30 on TNT. That's where you will see. And with that said, NBA fans, what's good? You are now rocking with the best. Ro Parrish, Studio V. It is Playoff Central Live presented by AT&T 5G with the NBA champion, Jason Jet Terry, and the lottery NBA legend, Greg Anthony. Go ahead and say it again one more time.
J-E-T, Jet.
Don't say it too loud in that other studio.
I already know he's going to be texting me.
Yeah. I'm probably going to get a text too as well. Shouts out to Kenny the Jet Smith. Nevertheless, we have game 4 tonight. A lot of things could be happening. A lot of things have already happened. We will hear from Stephanie Reddy, who will have the absolute latest on Trae Young and his status and availability for game 4. Jet Terry, we're looking at things. We saw the first game was the and one mixtape, as I like to call it, for the Hawks. It was spectacular. But then reality set in games 2 and 3. And what's going to happen with Trae? What do you see happening? What type of stat line does he need to put up in order for them to win if he does play?
Well, he has to go big, obviously, in game 1, put up a huge number in a 48 piece, and then not so good in game 2, 15 points is not going to get it done. They are counting heavily on his scoring, on his ability to facilitate, and just his overall energy to make that team go tonight. So we need him to have a big game, but also Collins. Collins has to play well. But in the last series against Philly, Kevin Huerter was a beast. Like, he had a matchup against Seth Curry.
Seth Curry, yeah.
And he really dominated, and they're going to need some scoring out of him as well. Probably a big 20, 25-point night for them to get the win here at home.
Yeah, he's only averaged 11 points per game so far after coming off that big Game 7 where he dropped 27. Now, GA, if Trae isn't at his best, which we know he has the bone bruise on his ankle, do the Hawks have a chance to win? And if so, how will they do it if he's not at full strength?
They can. The key is if he can play. He's got to be on the floor, because if he's on the floor, you still have to guard him as if he's 100%, and that's going to create opportunities for other guys. And to Jet's point, he's got to facilitate. But the guy that also has to step up, I think, is Bogdanović. Now, I know, he's banged up a little bit, but bottom line is he played 35 minutes. So he's not hurt to the point where he can't play. He was 3 of 16 in that game. And I just felt like they've got to get production from guys like Bogdanović, who was brilliant at times in the last series, and he was timely with his scoring. He's going to have to come up tonight. And again, you got to just put those injuries to the side and figure out a way to get your rhythm and get going, because he was building houses in that last game with that inability to make shots. And he's just got to, because the difference with this Bucks team, they're really good offensively. You know, Chris Middleton, Drew Holiday, they're terrific. Bobby Porter's off the bench. They figured out how to utilize Lopez, even though they're going to give up some things in that pick and roll. But what they've said is, we don't want to give up the 3. You know, we want to try to force Trae Young to play inside that 3-point line. And even if he has some success, it's the 3-point shooting ultimately that's going to kill you. And they did a really good job, I thought, in that last game. And remember, Drew Holiday still didn't do much offensively, only 2-11 for that last game. So he can still get to another level. I just think matchup-wise, this is a tremendous challenge for the Hawks, and that home crowd, the energy and enthusiasm's got to be there if they want to have a chance to even this thing up.
Drew Holiday, not impressive scoring, but 12 assists, only 1 turnover, was able to facilitate. But Jet, coming back to Bogdanović, we've seen he's been in single digits over the last 6 games, hasn't necessarily had that pop. We see that knee seems to be bothering him just a little bit. You know, what can he do for the Hawks if his shot's not falling? What other ways can he contribute other than scoring?
Well, for him, I mean, scoring is his game. I mean, he's not a defensive threat. He's not going to create offense through his defense. So it's more of him running off screens, sometimes playing in pick and roll as a scorer. But, his game also in transition. When that knee's bothering you a little bit, you just can't get out and run like you used to get easy baskets. So it's going to be a struggle for him, but again, he's a shooter. Shooters shoot. So he has to get a volume amount of shots so he can be effective tonight.
Indeed, he does. Well, we know who was effective getting shots up. That was Chris Middleton. His third game this season, this playoff season, scoring 35 or more. He has been ultimately impressive. And you know who else is impressive? Our own Stephanie Reddy, who chopped it up with the All-Star.
You were on fire. You outscored your opponent, the entire team, in the fourth quarter. What was that like?
It was unreal. I didn't necessarily know it until after the game. I was just so focused on, just trying to find a way to win. Got high at the right time. My teammates just kept feeding me, telling me to keep being aggressive.
When you're in that kind of zone, what does the basket look like? What does it feel like? Describe that inner feeling.
Yeah, just everything feels right. You're able to get to your spots. You're able to get the strength on your shots, the arc, everything, and the rim. Looks huge at that point. We see a couple go in.
Giannis says that he trusts you to death. What does that mean to you, coming from a two-time MVP?
It gives me all the confidence. I mean, we've been together basically our whole career. And I think we both understand that it's not about us anymore. We understand that we're trying to do the best for the team, whether that's just to make the right pass, the best decision, best shot. It's all for the team.
Now it's time for the Shot Talk presented by Kaiser Permanente. Kaiser, thank you so much. And then there's Cash Money Middleton taking over for the 9-9 and the 38 points. You saw that he outscored the Hawks by himself in the fourth quarter, as Stephanie Reddy mentioned. Bucks 9-0 this season so far when he shoots 40% or better. GA, tell me and tell the viewers why he is so effective in getting his shots off.
Well, there's a couple things. He's a much more versatile scorer than most people realize. He's a terrific one-on-one scorer, but he's a three-level scorer as well. And a lot of it is because he plays with Giannis. And so oftentimes he's not going to garner the same type of attention. He oftentimes is going to get to attack one-on-one in the half court, not against a loaded defense. As you can see here, they're not focused on him as much, and he understands that he has the opportunity to be aggressive. He can beat you off the dribble. He's also terrific at catch and shoot. So he just provides a lot of weapons offensively for the Bucks.
Love what you said, GA. I played with Milwaukee my last 2 seasons, and I would have to be the crash dummy for Chris Middleton. In ISO situations, he's calm, he's patient, he gets to his spots. In pick and rolls, he can get downhill. Great mid-range shooter, but like you said, also deadly in catch and shoot, which Milwaukee is lethal in ISO situations with Holiday and Giannis. And when the double comes, Cash Money is ready to catch and shoot.
I like how you did that at Cash Money. We put it all together. That's how we bring it.
Learn from the best.
We all know what Cash Money Middleton can do. He's been very impressive going back to the last game and even in that Game 7 in the victory on the road against the Brooklyn Nets. But we know where the bread is buttered in Milwaukee. Jet, like you mentioned, you played there for the last 2 years. Giannis is clearly head and shoulders the best player on that team, and he's shown it consistently. How impressed have you been with his level of play and the video game numbers that he's putting up? 30 and 10 essentially every game at least, if not going for 40 or more. What do you like about Giannis?
Well, it's the consistency. Usually in the regular season, you can put up these gaudy numbers and the playoffs come and you'll dip down, 6 or 7 below your average because the defense is just geared and designed to stop you. But for Giannis, he stayed even keel. He's been at that elite level, 30-plus points a night consistently, and then the rebounds are there. So he's doing it on both ends of the floor. He's leading his team. And then, GA, he's one of those superstars. He's not going to do a lot of talking.
No.
He likes to inflict pain on his opponents in the paint, and he's doing it. They challenge him to shoot more jump shots. Well, he's not going to take as many. He's sticking to where he eats at, and that's in the paint.
I like to equate Giannis to he's Shaquille O'Neal facing the basket. He's playing downhill, and he's in attack mode. And one of the adjustments he, along with that coaching staff, have made is a lot of times now they put him in a secondary motion, meaning he's not the primary ball handler. And so when it comes to him, he's got an opportunity to attack and not face a loaded defense. And if he gets 2 feet in the paint, it's over. I mean, this guy's field goal percentage from inside of 10 feet is ridiculous. I mean, it's higher than Shaq's. Think about that.
Wow.
And it's unbelievable what he does. And to your point, we kind of take him for granted. Like, he gets 30 and 11 every night when he is the primary focal point of the opposing team's defense. That says a lot about how special this young man is, and he's grown as a player. He's a much better decision maker as a passer than he has been in years past, and he's more trusting. And I think a lot of that trust is because of Drew Holiday. It may not always show up statistically, but when you know you got another guy that can get it done, it allows you to not have to force things. And that's why Giannis is starting, I think, to evolve as a basketball player. And this Milwaukee Bucks team is starting to play terrific basketball, most consistent stretch I've seen from them in the last 3 years.
Shooting 71% in the restricted area and has a double-double in 13 of 14 playoff games. Giannis and company going into Atlanta. Can they steal the victory? And there we see the virtual fans. We are Bucks heavy tonight on Playoff Central Live. We're going to hear from every single one of the virtual fans. I like that. We're growing and sexy with the music right now. Hey, shouts out to Sheryl Crow. Apparently, she is the new super fan for the Milwaukee Bucks. Shouts out to Chris Middleton, killing it. She posted this on social the other night. Like, her and her son started following the Bucks, and now they are on top of every single game. So, shouts out to Sheryl Crow. We appreciate you being an NBA fan. And we also appreciate the virtual fans who are here with us today. We got Corey, Tom, and Zal, and they have to ask the questions to the analysts. So this is what we're going to do. We're going to start with Corey first. You are up to deck. You get to ask the question to Jet Terry. You have the floor.
Perfect. So for the Jet, I just want to know, you were at the beginning of our Milwaukee culture change with this basketball thing. So from then to now, how do you see how the Bucks have changed as a basketball culture in the city?
Well, in the city, it was already becoming vibrant, but when you add Fiserv Arena, I mean, it's just the energy of the fans is so crazy. They're rabid fans. They're waiting. They've been waiting for since 1971 for a championship, and now they finally have the pieces assembled to get it done. And Giannis is playing at an MVP level. Obviously, the addition of Drew Holiday, Chris Middleton has blossomed into an all-star, a perennial all-star player now. And so, I mean, everything's lining up for them. You know, in the playoffs, it's about matchups. They got through the toughest test in Brooklyn, and now you have a wounded Atlanta Hawks team. Trae Young, don't know if he's going to be fully healthy tonight. But, hey, you got to play who they put in front of you. And if there's no other time, the time is now for the Bucks to realize their championship dreams.
There it is. As we bring in Tom, our virtual fan, you have the floor right now. Your question goes to GA.
Yes, my question is, with Lou Williams possibly getting more playing time, how will the Bucks have to defend him differently than what they've been doing so far?
Honestly, I thought in the last game they did a terrific job. And the advantage they have is they've got versatile, long defenders. They don't have small defenders. Drew Holiday, 6'6", Chris Middleton's about 6'7", 6'8", and then Giannis. So those three guys on the perimeter, and you factor in what Connaughton can do. The whole key is that they don't bite on pump fakes. And if you notice, they've kept him off the free throw line when they've played well. And I think that continues. They've got a feel of who he is and how he's going to play. And I do expect he's going to probably get more of an opportunity if Trae is laboring at all. But I think there might be an X factor from Atlanta's standpoint. Look, I wouldn't be surprised to see a Cam Reddish or a Tony Snell potentially get an opportunity tonight just to throw a curveball if you're Atlanta, to give Milwaukee a different look, because that length on the perimeter for Milwaukee is, I think, starting to create some problems for Atlanta. And I get the sense that the Bucks smell blood in the water, and they are looking to seize control of this series tonight.
Great questions right there. Great questions. And by the way, Trae is a game-time decision as we continue to talk to the fans right now. Our last question comes from Zal. He has the sun out and the guns are out. Your question for Jet Terry. Go ahead, throw it out there.
Oh, he flexed on us.
He did flex.
I think we all know the series is over. It's going to be Bucks in 5, maybe Bucks in 6. That being said, looking forward to the finals. So the Bucks match up better against the Suns or the Clippers?
Oh, good question. I mean, two good teams in the Suns and the Clippers. Both are playing some very good basketball right now. I mean, I don't really think it matters who they match up with. It's all about them and if they can impose their will on either one of those two teams, and where their bread and butter is in that paint. I mean, game one against the Hawks, they scored 70 big points in the paint. We already talked about it earlier. Giannis is averaging 70% in the paint. So if they can impose their will, punish them inside, and then spread outside, go inside out, I mean, they're going to be tough for whoever they face. And you got to remember, Milwaukee does play defense. They got two of the best defensive players in the league in Drew Holiday and Giannis. So they're a tough foe.
Well, there it is, the virtual fans. We appreciate you, Corey, Tom, and Zoe. Hey, thank you. We're going to hear. There he is, 20 points in each of their first 18 playoff games in NBA history. You see a few finals MVPs there, some of the greatest ever to do it, arguably the greatest of all time. And then you see Paul George, who is in select company. Can the Clippers continue to win games? Ty Lue, your thoughts?
He's been great for what
do is do everything else.
They play with determination. You know, we have to realize we're trying to close out a series against a team that's been there before, and they're going to claw and scratch and do whatever it takes. We have to have that mentality.
They came out, they punched us in the face to start the game, and I think we showed it at spots. They're not going to go away easily, so we have to be locked in, from beginning to end.
Clippers forced the Game 6 in the victory in the Valley of the Sun just last night. We all know that the talk has been about Paul George. While there has been criticism, he has been awfully impressive. GA, just looking at him, we know what he was able to do back in the day with the Pacers. He was the main primary option. Of course, he goes through different locations, but now since Kawhi is out, he's re-become that primary option, and he's very comfortable in that role.
He's been amazing. And listen, Giannis has been incredible this entire postseason. There have been a lot, but you could argue he's been as good as anybody this postseason. And DeMarcus made some good points about not understanding, because if this had been anybody else in this, think of it this way: Team A loses arguably the best player in the league. You got to go play the 1 seed in Utah. You knock them off. Then you got to come back and play the 2 seed. You're down 2-0. And you perform how he's performed to continue to give them a chance. We'd be singing his praises. And then last night, one of the all-time great performances that you will see in terms of what he was able to do. He is more deserving of credit for what he's accomplished. And who's to say he's done? Because they're going to have another opportunity, obviously, tomorrow night against Phoenix. And they're feeling confident, and they've been this way all season. And I always tell people, true leadership is how a team responds to adversity. And the fact that they've faced elimination multiple times in this postseason, they've been down 2-0, and was in every series, I think, in this postseason, and yet they respond and they come out and play their best basketball with their back against the wall. That says a lot about Paul George, because you tend to follow your best player. And when things have been toughest, they perform their best. And I think that's a direct credit not only to that coaching staff, but to Paul George as their best player.
No doubt about it. He wants tulips, roses, petunias. Give that boy his flowers. But you got to remember, when he was in Indy, he was option 1. GA, you said it. When he goes to OKC, he's 1B. Then he's at the Clippers. He has to take kind of a back seat to Kawhi Leonard. And now Leonard's out. Now it's back on him. It's back like he's in Indy. People forget the playoff series he had against Cleveland and LeBron when he was going toe-to-toe with the best in the business. He put up a 40-piece, with limited talent on that team. And so now he's thrust in the role. Then talk about the injuries. 2 shoulders, a gruesome leg injury, and you're talking about a guy that's always been top 3 two-way players in our league. This kid is a stud. And, only thing I can say about criticism is, you're a dog and one of the top dogs when you get that type of criticism. I played with Dirk. When we lost, he took all the beating. When we win, everybody else got the praise. So he's doing the right thing. He's leading his team. They're still in a hole. They haven't got there. To talk a little bit about Phoenix, though, they're expecting them to go away. No, you have to put them away when you're in a series in a closeout situation. So they got to change their mentality going forward.
No doubt about it. Paul George in the regular season, 23-7-5 in the playoffs. He's elevated that to 27-10-6. 18 straight games scoring 20 points. We showed you that at the beginning, but you have to give some respect to Ty Lue as well. We talk about giving out flowers in elimination games all the time. He's 10-3. He really knows how to respond in those situations. Jet, just coming to you, back to you on this one. Is the Clippers as a team, are they starting to take on the personality of their head coach and Ty Lue on the floor?
No doubt about it. I mean, if you watch his demeanor, how he handles himself on the sidelines when times are adverse. Now, he's had the experience being when he was down 3-1 in the finals with Cleveland against Golden State. So he's been there before, but he's calm under pressure. Nothing ever phases him. So if I'm a team and I'm looking at my coach, I got to see if he's rattled first. And he's always calm and poised. The other thing he does, he puts his players in positions to succeed. If you watched him move his chess pieces around, they went to a zone defense to start out that game in Game 5. It was phenomenal. And then you watch him manipulate the pick and roll and putting the weak defender in the pick and roll and then just attacking time after time. Then, you know what? They're big, so we go small. We start small.
Yeah.
They sub and they go small. Well, we go big and bring in DeMarcus Cousins, and he totally punished the second unit. So he's doing a masterful job of putting his players in positions to succeed. And I wouldn't be surprised if they come back and win Game 6 at home, and then we'll have what everybody wants.
Game 7.
Everybody but Phoenix.
Everybody but Phoenix. I mean, talk about the big performances. You look at Reggie Jackson, who comes in. You know, I know Detroit's like, well, hold on, where was this Reggie Jackson? 20 points in 9 of 18 games in the playoffs. He only had 20 points in 7 of 67 games. He's elevated his game. You look at Marcus Morris, who filled in admirably, coming out having 22 points. A lot of the others stepping their game up when you have a guy like Kawhi out and Zubac.
Yeah, there's no doubt about it. They've had guys answer the bell. But I go back to what Jet was talking about with Ty Lue. I had the opportunity to play for one of the greatest coaches ever in Pat Riley. And as a coach, your team is always looking for a little edge. When you come to a huddle, when things are going tough, Pat Riley would be the most prepared person I've ever been around. So that preparation gives you confidence. He always believed that we could win. And that's how Ty Lue is. Like, he's always cool and calm, even when things aren't going well. And what happens is your team starts to believe. And that's what's going on with this Clippers team. They feel they're the better basketball team. They truly believe that. And they played that way. In that last game, you saw Marcus Morris comes out. He sets the tone with how aggressive he was to score. They seek out mismatches. He does a great job of pushing the right buttons, and his team has responded in kind. It's been phenomenal to watch the chess match that he has played. Now the question is, can Monty Williams match that on the road in that hostile environment with a chance to go to the NBA Finals?
We got to go real quick. Did they force a Game 7, yes or no?
Yes.
Yes or no?
I'm leaning yes.
There it is. Game 7. Jet Terry says that's what everybody wants to see. The Hawks hope that they can force a Game 7. They call him Red Velvet. They call him K-Bond. Hey, they're going to call him a bucket. That's what they need if the Hawks want to get a win. Hasn't necessarily shot his best ball, but they will need him to step it up. And the virtual fans, they are always ready to step it up.
Baby.
We heard from them earlier. We'll hear from them again in a moment. We're just in here chilling. Studio B, Jet Terry, Ropey, and I guess indeed cannot wait to see who is the recipient of that award. That man on the screen is the recipient of many postseason awards, but he wants that Larry O'Brien trophy. So far in 14 playoff games, he has 13 double-doubles, and in the paint, he is a problem, shooting 71%. Yeah, that's crazy. That's Giannis taking on the Hawks with his Milwaukee Bucks. That's 8:30 p.m. on TNT. And we have the virtual fans back with us to ask another round of questions. I see we have another fan here who's excited. I think that's Adam. Adam is here. So, Adam, since all the other virtual fans have asked questions, you have the floor. First, your question for Jet Terry is?
What do you think of Giannis being, like, passive in the fourth quarter? You think that's cool? Like MVP passing up the fourth quarter to Chris Middleton?
Well, you got to look at Giannis and his game. He's become a much smarter player, if I can phrase it that way. But the closer on this team is clear. It's Chris Middleton. Why? Because the ball's in his hands. He can score in a variety of ways. And then if he's fouled, he goes to the free throw line with confidence. He's shooting 85+% from the line. Giannis is, from the free throw line, he's had his struggles. And so in the fourth quarter, he'd rather be that second guy, So I think he's doing the right thing. He'll pick his spots on when to be aggressive. But the ball's going to be in Chris Middleton's hands. And also, if Drew Holiday decides he wants to get it going, he's another lethal threat as well.
Let me ask. First, think of it this way. When Kobe and Shaq played together, who was the closer on those teams?
Kobe.
It was Kobe. You're a more skilled guy who can be lethal at the free throw line. You want those situations for him to attack. It's not as if Giannis won't have some opportunities, but that's just good basketball. Like, it's about winning the game. Would you rather Giannis have the ball in the four quarters and not make free throws and lose like they've done the last 2 seasons? Or would you rather have another guy who's on the USA Olympic team, who's playing great basketball, who came through big for you in those situations because it's the matchup? Giannis still had 30 and 10.
Oh, yeah.
He's still having a huge impact on the game. And a lot of the reason why Chris gets the opportunities to attack one-on-one is because of Giannis's presence on the floor. The defense has to load to him, so that takes them a step further away from defending Middleton. And those two have great chemistry and a great synergy together, and they are in the business of trying to win a world championship. So I love the way they're playing now as opposed to how they played the last few seasons.
Corey, you're up. Your question for GA.
Yeah, so with the recent success of small market teams, do you think more big-time free agents are going to start paying more attention to smaller market teams?
I think that could happen. I think ultimately now, I don't even look at teams as being small market because every game's nationally televised, right? With NBA League Pass and the way that we have our own network, each major sport has its own network. It's a completely different dynamic. You couldn't be a mega superstar 20 years ago if you played in a real small market. And by superstar, you might be a superstar on the court, but you weren't to the casual fan. You weren't as marketable. That's not the case right now. Donovan Mitchell, Giannis, those guys are as big as stars as we have in our game. And to your point, they're not in major markets. And I think that's a beautiful thing. And I think you're going to continue to see those teams, if they do it the right way from the front office standpoint, have a chance to compete at the highest level.
And if you think about today's players, their mindset, their mentality is, if we're in a great city, but we're on a bad team, I don't want to be there. Yeah. I want to have a chance to win. I want to play with other great players. So I put me in the best position.
Look at my Knicks. Who was going there as an A-list free agent the last 20 years?
Nobody.
Keith Sweat. Nobody. Hey, Tom, the Jet is on the runway. He has a question. You have a question.
Yes, with the success the Bucks have had in the last couple of years, it's also been with Coach Bud. How would you characterize his coaching and his leadership this playoff season?
Well, I think Coach Bud has grown and he's learned from his past failures. And that's all you can ask in any position of power and leadership, is that you learn from the experiences that you've had. They always used to talk about Bud and he didn't make adjustments. Well, this postseason, you've seen those adjustments at the highest level. In the Brooklyn Nets series, he had to make a lineup change. He had to change the style of play. He's put the ball in Chris Middleton's hand in late game situations. So he's become a better coach because of his past failures, and he's the right guy for the job. Another guy with great even demeanor, even keel, reminds me a lot of Coach Pop, who he learned from.
Nice. Zal, close it and bring it home. You have a question for GA.
Awesome. Theoretically, if you had an expansion team, you're the general manager, you can pick one player to build your franchise around. Who would you rather have, Trae Young or the Greek Freak?
I would probably go with the Greek Freak. And that's not a slate on Trae Young, because if I didn't have a chance to get the Greek Freak and I could get Trae Young, I'd be very happy. But I go with Giannis in part because he can dominate both sides of the ball. And that's really ultimately what's most important. You know what? This is an offensive era, but ultimately it's still about being able to defend if you want to win a championship. The best defensive team in the league last year won it, the Lakers. And if you look at the top teams right now, Milwaukee, a great defensive team. Phoenix, the Clippers, great defensive teams. And the Hawks have played much better defense in this postseason. So that's still a valuable commodity to have. And I would lean with the big man.
There it is. Corey, Zal, Tom, hey, and we appreciate Adam as well. We appreciate all of you for joining us, all the virtual fans. Great questions.
Great
Way to
question,
bring it.
guys. Great question.
Fear the deer.
Thanks, guys.
Have fun tonight.
Yes, indeed. Hey, when he's cooking like Raekwon the chef, he gives him the ghost face because he's a killer in the clutch. Game 1 and 2, he scored 30 points total, 38 in Game 3. What will he do tonight? Find out on TNT at 8:30.